On Thursday the 24th of August in 2023, a 28-year-old father named Shelton Bennett left his home in Laurel Hill, North Carolina, to visit a friend in the neighbouring town of Savannah before he would mysteriously disappear, never to be seen again. That morning, Shelton had texted his mother Jennifer to tell her about his plans, and according to her, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but as the day progressed, his family became increasingly alarmed when he abruptly stopped answering his cell phone. The next day, a close friend visited Shelton's home to check up on him, only to find out some troubling details. Apparently, Shelton's partner, who was the mother of his child, was providing some extremely vague responses, and her behaviour fueled fears that something concerning may have occurred. But the case would only grow more controversial when just a few days later, Shelton's blue Dodge Challenger was found abandoned on a desolate stretch of Butler Road, empty and eerily out of place. Search teams then scoured the nearby areas in search of any potential leads, but there was still no sign of Shelton. So as the police continued to investigate, suspicion began to fall on his partner, as well as a second woman who was also believed to be involved in his life. These witnesses reportedly withheld critical information and refused to cooperate fully with the authorities, but despite this, no arrests were ever made, meaning that after 15 months of investigating, Shelton's case remains unsolved, understandably leaving his family to wonder what really happened to Shelton Bennett, and who could be responsible for his strange and sudden disappearance. Shelton Eugene Bennett was born in 1995 in Scotland County, North Carolina, where he grew up surrounded by a loving family in the close-knit community of Laurel Hill. Known for his upbeat and loyal nature, Shelton was someone who brought joy to those around him, and his infectious smile left a lasting impression on everyone he met. Family was everything to Shelton. His mother Jennifer often described him as a devoted son and father who prioritized his loved ones above all else. Most notably, Shelton adored his young child, and his role as a father was at the heart of everything he did. Whether it was spending quality time at home or offering support to his friends, Shelton's reliability and compassion were unwavering. But on top of this, beyond his deep connection to his family, Shelton was also a man of many talents and ambitions. He worked hard to provide for his loved ones, balancing responsibilities with a forward-looking attitude. His friends and family often spoke of his ability to stay focused on his goals, even when life presented challenges. However, like so many others, Shelton did carry a few burdens which he kept private. But despite these personal struggles, he was always there for the people closest to him, especially his child, whose happiness meant the absolute world to him. So, towards the end of summer in 2023, Shelton was actively making plans for the future, with every intention of continuing to be a positive force in his family's life. But tragically, these plans would inevitably be cut short when Shelton would mysteriously disappear on that fateful day in August. On Thursday the 24th of August, the 28-year-old father was having a conversation with his mother over text, where he revealed his plans to visit a friend in the nearby town of Savannah. According to Jennifer, he seemed his usual self, calm, collected and optimistic about the day ahead. Nothing appeared out of the ordinary. Later that day, Shelton seemingly went about his routine, but what unfolded in the hours that followed remains shrouded in mystery, as by the next day, his friends had grown extremely concerned when calls to Shelton went unanswered, an unusual occurrence for someone so connected to his family and community. One close friend was so worried that he eventually decided to visit Shelton's home to check up on him, only to be met with some incredibly suspicious behaviour from Shelton's partner, who claimed she hadn't seen him that day and had no idea where he could be. But given the lack of concrete evidence, Shelton's friend was forced to leave the residence, despite his strong suspicion that there was much more to the story that she was keeping a secret. And to make matters even more concerning, 3 days later, on August the 28th, Shelton's blue Dodge Challenger was discovered abandoned on Butler Road, which is a desolate and rural area in Laurel Hill, North Carolina. However, given the lack of evidence present at the time, the vehicle had not yet been identified as belonging to Shelton. According to reports, the car was intact but offered no clues about who owned the vehicle, as they discovered no personal belongings, no signs of a struggle, nothing to suggest what had really happened. It was as if the driver had simply vanished into thin air. So as the days continued to pass by, Shelton's family were forced to confront the chilling reality that their loved one, a devoted father and beloved son, was potentially in danger, and so they had no choice but to turn to the local police to officially report him as missing. On Tuesday the 29th of August, the Scotland County Sheriff's Office received a call from Shelton Bennett's deeply concerned family, who were claiming that they had not seen or heard from him in several days. So in response to their pleas for help, the investigating officers immediately opened a missing person case and began gathering information from those closest to Shelton. Through their inquiries, investigators learned that Shelton's car was an exact match to the blue Dodge Challenger that had been discovered abandoned on the remote stretch of Butler Road just a day earlier. And this discovery sent shockwaves throughout the family, as the location was far from anywhere Shelton was known to frequent. The sheriff's office then worked to piece together Shelton's last known movements, speaking with friends, family and associates, and it wasn't long before suspicions arose surrounding individuals connected to Shelton. Two women close to him who withheld critical information reportedly declined to cooperate fully with authorities, raising questions about what they might be hiding. Family members also claimed that they seemed unbothered by Shelton's sudden disappearance, which they found unsettling given the seriousness of the situation. However, despite these early developments, the case would only grow more troubling as days turned into weeks, with Shelton's family working tirelessly to raise awareness, with no definitive leads emerging, eventually leading the case to turn cold as the police awaited further evidence to come forward. And then, exactly a week later, their patience would finally seem to pay off, as a credible tip would come forward that could have potentially changed everything. On Tuesday the 5th of September, nearly 2 weeks after Shelton Bennett was last seen, investigators once again turned their attention to Shelton's partner, as well as the other woman who was apparently a part of his life. During the initial interviews, their behaviour had raised significant red flags, as both had reportedly refused to fully cooperate with authorities, leaving the family and law enforcement increasingly frustrated. But according to Shelton's family, these women may have been some of the last people to see him alive, making their lack of cooperation all the more suspicious. However, due to the police's initial hesitation, it took weeks for investigators to begin piecing together timelines and evidence that may have led back to the suspects. So by the time law enforcement could act more decisively, many felt that critical time had already been lost. In one instance, investigators reportedly visited one of the women's properties to conduct a thorough search, and during their time in the residence, they combed through her home, questioned her about Shelton's last known movements, and examined any potential evidence that could have linked her back to the case. Though the search didn't yield immediate results, it raised more questions than answers about what might have happened to Shelton, and why these individuals seemed so reluctant to help. However, the delay in conducting these searches and interviews drew sharp criticism from Shelton's family, as they voiced concerns that valuable evidence may have been overlooked or destroyed in the time since Shelton went missing, potentially allowing those involved to cover their tracks. For Shelton's loved ones, the thought that someone might have had over 2 weeks to erase all traces of wrongdoing was a bitter pill to swallow. And as months continue to pass, with no concrete evidence to tie anyone to Shelton's disappearance, law enforcement continued to lean on the public for tips and information. But sadly, every single lead seemed to hit a dead end, leaving the case in limbo, meaning that to this day, Shelton Bennett remains a missing person, with his family still desperately seeking answers and justice for their beloved son, brother, and father. Now, unfortunately, as far as the official investigation goes, this is all we know for now. Despite the efforts of law enforcement and the many questions surrounding Shelton's disappearance, answers remain heartbreakingly elusive. But in the face of these bleak circumstances, Shelton's family remain dedicated to their search for the truth. They continue to hold on to hope that someone somewhere holds the key to unravelling this mystery, As for them, it is not a question of if the truth will come to light, but when. However, given that Shelton Bennett has now been missing for over a year, coupled with the disturbing and cryptic details surrounding his case, it's hard to ignore that the chances of his safe return only grow slimmer with each passing day. So with that, let's get into some of the potential theories. Now, as always, just before we dive into the theories themselves surrounding Shelton Bennett's disappearance, I wanted to first acknowledge the immense pain and uncertainty his family has endured over the past year. So, out of respect for them, it's vital that we approach these possibilities with empathy and sensitivity, which is why I will only be covering theories which are based on statements made by Shelton's family and law enforcement. However, it's important to remember that whilst some ideas may be more likely than others, all theories remain speculative until concrete evidence emerges to confirm what truly happened. But with that being said, one of the more popular theories that has been heavily considered by the family is that Shelton may have been a victim of foul play. From the very beginning, his family has insisted that Shelton's disappearance is highly out of character. His father has been particularly vocal about his son's close bond with his child, emphasizing that Shelton would never voluntarily abandon his family, especially not without any warning or explanation. This theory is further supported by the discovery of Shelton's car in a remote area on Butler Road. The location itself has raised significant concerns, as investigators believe it's not the kind of place someone would abandon their vehicle, unless they were familiar with the area or deliberately trying to avoid detection. Also, despite their detailed searches, the car revealed no clues, leading many to suspect an intentional effort to obscure evidence. Another point to add is that Butler Road is not a well-trafficked area, and abandoning a car there seems very calculated, so this has led investigators to focus on the possibility that whoever is responsible might be from the local community. Adding to this theory, the two female suspects have drawn significant attention for their conflicting accounts and suspicious behaviour during the investigation. Media reports suggest that these individuals may hold critical information, but their lack of cooperation has only deepened the mystery. So, although authorities have not yet named any official suspects, Shelton's family believe that these women could hold the key to understanding what truly happened, and if so, foul play would be the obvious answer. Also, there's been speculation that Shelton's disappearance could be linked to a personal dispute or an act of retaliation. And if so, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to assume that these rumours could be true, given the behaviour of these women. However, without any clear evidence, this theory can only remain a possibility for now. So for the sake of discussion, if foul play isn't the answer, then what else could explain his strange disappearance? Well, law enforcement also believe it's possible that Shelton may have chosen to disappear voluntarily, as this is an idea that often arises in missing person cases where there's limited physical evidence. Some have also speculated that personal pressures or an undisclosed desire to start a new life could have driven him to leave without explanation. However, Shelton's loved ones strongly refute this notion, as they describe him as a devoted father with a deep commitment to his family, particularly his child, and emphasise that he would never abandon his responsibilities without a word. The location of his car's discovery further complicates this theory, as this detail suggests that something far more troubling had occurred that was far from voluntary. Ultimately, while this theory cannot be entirely ruled out, it seems inconsistent with Shelton's character, and for his family, the notion of a voluntary disappearance feels more like an attempt to rationalise such a strange event, rather than to provide a legitimate explanation. So, based on this, if we assume that Shelton didn't leave on his own accord, then what else could have happened to him? Well, some have suggested that Shelton's disappearance could be the result of a tragic misadventure or accident, particularly given the remote and secluded nature of Butler Road where his car was discovered. In this scenario, it's possible that Shelton may have encountered trouble or suffered an accident near the site, leading him to leave the car and become incapacitated in the wilderness. However, significant challenges weaken this idea. Notably the thorough searches of the area around his car, where no physical evidence or signs of Shelton were ever found. Furthermore, the absence of any personal belongings at the scene, combined with the isolated location of the car, raises doubts about whether an accident could fully explain his disappearance anyway. So, given the large gaps in these theories, for now, Shelton's family have no choice but to continue pushing for answers, as they urge anyone with information to please come forward. The reality is, for them, the hope of solving this mystery and bringing Shelton home is unwavering, so until more concrete evidence emerges, the troubling questions still remain. What really happened to Shelton Bennett? And perhaps more importantly, why has his case gone unresolved for so long? Anyway, on that note, I think I'll leave this video here. But as always, if you have any other theories of your own which you think may help explain what really happened to Shelton Bennett, please leave your ideas in the comments down below and I'll do my best to get back to you. Also, for those of you who want to help this channel grow so we can help spread even more awareness for these types of cases, consider becoming a member today for less than $1 a month, as these contributions will help me keep the channel afloat when views are low, and if we get enough members, I hope to one day be able to give back to the families themselves to help fund their independent searches. But either way, until next time, thank you so much for watching, and make sure to check out the playlist on screen now, which covers the many cases of young black men who continue to go missing in recent years.